In this video, I'm gonna continue with source NAT. This time, I'm gonna delete easy IP configuration we prepared last time and try to use NAT address pool instead. We've got two public IP addresses from our service provider. We have two options that we should test in this lab: no path and path. In other words, NAT with no port translation and NAT with port translation. I'm gonna show you both options to find the differences between them. Our service provider has already configured static route to our NAT address pool 6.6.6.0/31. I'll keep the public point-to-point connection between the firewall and ISP router, although public IP addresses are not needed in this case. We could use private IP addresses instead. What we need to do first, we need to create NAT address group with mode no path, in other words with no port translation. In this case, private IP address will be translated to public IP, but port will not be translated. So, NAT address group source NAT mode no path global root enable. We should use root enable command that generates a user network route for addresses in the NAT address pool. That's like the black hole route, and this route can prevent loops. Section 0 ? Specify the start address. In our case, we're gonna use only one IP address, and this address is 6.6.6.0. Quit NAT policy. Display this. Let's delete rule EasyNAT we configured last time, so there is no mess. Undo rule name NAT easy. Now we can create NAT policy with our new rule called source NAT. Rule name source NAT, source zone trust, destination zone untrust, source address 10.0.0.0 with mask 24, and the action for this rule is source NAT address group source NAT. Now we can verify whether we can ping Huawei.com website from our PC1 and PC2. Ping Huawei.com -t. Ping Huawei.com -t. As we can see, we can only ping from one PC. Why? Because we're using no path mode in our NAT address group. If there is no port translation, that means that we should have as many public IP addresses as hosts on our local area network. Literally, one private IP address is mapped to one public IP address. So in our case, we have two PCs, so we should use two public IP addresses in our NAT address pool. Let's do it. Display this. We need to delete the action first. So undo action, source NAT. Now we can modify NAT address group. NAT address group, source NAT. Display this. We need to delete the section 0, undo section 0, and we need to set the section 0 once again. Section 0, the first IP address will be 6.6.6.0, and the end IP address will be 6.6.6.1. Display this. NAT policy, display this. We need to set the action for this rule once again. So rule name source NAT, action source NAT, address group source NAT. Now the pings succeed from both PCs. Let's look at the firewall session table. Display firewall session table. We can now see the traffic from both PC1 and PC2. The IP address 10.0.0.209 is mapped to 6.6.6.0 and 10.0.0.200 is translated to 6.6.6.1. Notice that the port is not translated. Now we're gonna change mode of NAT to PAT. I mean to port translation. But we need to delete the action in the rule of NAT policy first, and then we can change the mode to PAT. We'll use only one public IP address in our NAT address pool. NAT policy, rule name source NAT, undo action source NAT, NAT address group source NAT, display this, mode PAT, undo section 0, section 0, 6.6.6.0, NAT policy, rule name source NAT, action source NAT, address group source NAT. Can we ping Huawei.com from both PCs? Yes, we can. Let's look at the firewall session table again. Display firewall session table. As you can see, both private IP addresses of our PCs are translated to one public IP address 6.6.6.0. But notice the ports are also translated. So once again, if you can't use Easy IP source NAT for some reason, you can use NAT address pool instead. If you've got more public IP addresses, you may use no PAT, but if you've got only one public IP address, the best way is to use NAT address pool with port translation. In this case, NAT translates IP addresses and ports, so it can map many private IP addresses to only one single public address.